Hello, candidate Amy Morin Bello, and candidates for Wethersfield, Connecticut. I've been asking to report predicate acts that are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated intra-campuses. And each time they recorded, confessed, and demonstrated that the police chief and the other police forms and their family members and their neighbors were/are involved with identity thefts and frauds, with people through time with the same campuses involved with this, with the same people, and with other countries here. And so when we're talking about subjects and specific acts, predicate acts, sequence shifts, specific sequence shifts, they're preventing that from being the subject because they're separating subjects. And in other words, and everyone's pretending not to understand people. So I can't get anyone onto writing since I was a kid. The same people involved, intercities, the same ones, inter-campuses, on off campuses, predicate acts, roles. Now, so these are courts with judges and prosecutors leading up to the World Trade Center attack. In that context, syntax-wise, who people know wise, who is an expert in uses of that. These are people that, with the investigators of it too. There's a Leahy family, and there are dozens of people from Hartford courts and from New Britain Superior Court, dozens of people from New Britain Superior Court that I don't know at all. All exceptions, exception nature, had them involved with sequence shifts as victims since they were kids, forced to be victim predator roles with recorded predicate acts with the campuses I went to. That's why I never got suspended when I filmed about the on and off campus, all kinds of natures of federal crimes with kids. People use the right to lie. People use the right to do those kind of things with kids. That was being used remotely. There's something there's something about there's a fake positive and negative treatments and collusion. Time treatments are used all ways, too fast, too slow. Sequence shifts self-value because of a method to it. And so everyone just keeps going forward and say, oh, well, that's not our job. We ask about these people. And then when people try to have a conversation, they want to have the conversation about anything but the actual acts. And then people they make allegations against people. See, these are courts that are with criminal uses of all words/values, readings of the law, on their locations and off them simultaneously, for example. And that was used remotely already. And all that is manifest with that is a whole bunch of motivations for insidious natures of positive self-value and for insidious natures of negative self-value in collusion with all locations, areas, and states, blaming on other things, others, themselves. Why and how people of each age of fact treatment nature can't use the correlation nature and the answer/s actually capable of each location's identities of science/s. Science/s. It is evidence as correlations natures means to reveal that and how the lawyers were in collusion with opinion natures and conviction natures that were still using premises to defend it, that were tactically, criminally foreign influenced, and blaming other things, others themselves for that, and for roles with uses of it, partially because no one fathomed, but mostly because the only way anyone could understand it is needed to hide lipoaggressions, needed to hide uses of identity ground locations, every single one, individually grouped it together, including the branches of government, individually grouped and together crime methods to hide this. So there's not just known and unknown that they know about themselves, even senators. Per them. Per science. We're in a semi-ancient trap that one archetypal criminal enterprise figured out how it could get the whole entire, however many people there are, individually grouped and together, self-valuing that tactical ulterior from the identity of value progression that causes positive value nature progressions, action natures, or causes negative value nature, but as a system, tactical ulterior from these. So all exceptions in exception nature, as criminal necessitous nature is. For example, I'm not a lawyer, thank God. Is tactical. We're going to need this, but I probably would have had more than one doctorate by now, and more than one belt. I would have been a successful fighter, and I'm still want to do that. And I want to be an educator, but I don't want to hide what I'm aware of, because these are the same people that are involved now with active Wethersfield police. You have men that use the name Sullivan. When they have then they confess over the phone at the Wethersfield police. They only have one person named Sullivan, and it's a female, they say, but they have a male associated with the Wethersfield town offices. These are also families that are a whole bunch of ways through time connected. Washington, D.C., and World Trade Center. Exploitations of on-off campuses, life progressions. They even bring private school kids and homeschooled relations into the narratives where they have people walking in life progressions. Everyone has victims, but everyone has victim predators as sequence shifting roles in defense of it. For example, the evidence of this requires mandated law to be followed. So I need an explanation for the people on the child offender registry, also with more tied to them, also with their patients and criminals and doctors before they got caught. And still they were recorded with the juxtaposed natures of organized crime and worse than war crimes. These are people involved with the military also, identity thefts and frauds, natures of it, methods of it. These are people attaching little kids to fake words and communications and sequence relationships and locations with their family. And WFSB, WTNH, and Fox CT, Fox Connecticut News, they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They were influenced to roles with those predicate acts on and off campuses, and with lies they told with the news, including attaching little kids and me when I was a kid, and as an adult, to fake ties to doctors that never were, fake natures of ties to doctors that never were, complete fake conversations. They didn't ask me a question and then they misunderstood what I said. They didn't hear me speaking to someone else in the place. 3 days I was forced to be for mental evaluation when my father died. Before that, in the context of my father's death, and since, there are recorded, confessed, demonstrated there were medical people and involved with badges too, with various natures of courts, former director of the FBI in his defendant capacities, his lawyer, Robert Chevalier, the former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. Also people involved with the transition from ACA to RICO and how they use identity ground locations. And not for what they're pretending to do, just for... This is connected also to how markets were originally employed to keep everyone pretending to be about positive and negative, while they're not allowing anyone to tell, for example, while they're the people offensively pretending to be legitimately telling on others. So this is each age of fact-checking nature. These are even fire campuses that are recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with the police forms and the judges and prosecutors, and the overt criminal enterprises, and the private ones, and the sciences further, and everyone's neighbors. And now this is where and how everyone's manifest speaking about behavior as sequence shift predators, as predicate, as standing criminal insidiousness natures. So, and they're also lying to and having to lie and having to pretend to be integrity anyway. So, forcing attorney generals to collusion with them. So these are also people that are CNN sources and Fox News sources. So there are fake sides. These are also people that their sources were involved when I was a kid with uses of parks and uses of phenomena with the fact sheet, with the field across the street from my house, where they have people make confessions that are involved with predicate acts with illusions in databases, sequence shifts in databases, not knowing when they were kids. So, but see, that's relevant now because I've been asking for a while, so they've been trying to cover it up. So they use methods where they jump into natures of uses of investigators, and using of things, just having them in regular life interact with and with their sources and stuff like that. They have to cover lie progressions. So they had people in the past that I never saw or talked to at all. People I same thing, but there was exceptions because they sought me out for confessions. You know, and or also to be pretending to be truth. But see, that was standardized. See, when everyone's in grammar school, all the answers that we needed were that basic. They're just extensive. They're not even extensive. It's not that complicated. The three branches of government, exceptions and exception nature. Because of how we are exception nature, that can only be a semi-nature relationship to what is making more and more of itself as that part of itself that is only increasing, as increasing perfect increase of value as volume. See, we have theory, intersciences, and they have words/values like philosophy involved with this crime method, where people are describing me with phrases when they have physical terms, when fake conversations with me. Now, these are also juxtaposed natures of organized crime they've had on my street that are tied to the inter-campuses predicate acts, tied to the same house/S, involved with the police chiefs years ago who was reported his girlfriend. I'm not sure what that police officer's name was, the police chief's name was. And Officer Cintron, the police chief Cintron, and a whole bunch of people tied to a Kevin Dillon, a Tom Dillon, and a Sean Dillon, and more than one of them with those names, and Anna Dillon, and she also uses the name Annie Dillon, involved with where and how, also grouped the executive branch police forms, and the all private ones tied to them too, and lawyers. They also have lawyers and people associated with the media, with Hartford Hospital, involved with juxtaposed natures of organized crime, and with juxtaposed natures of federal criminals since before they got caught, and after they were pretending they didn't realize that things had been proven, and they've been hiding lie progressions. We'll examine how the people associated with the body dumping spots, associated with such, that like associated with the Enzo Fienza, he will record, confessed, and demonstrated on and off the state judicial branch roles, with who he doesn't know the extent of. But he's also one of the ones recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with mayors, and with elections and voting locations, Wethersfield town offices, other voting locations. See, when you start talking about one thing, and you guys are leaving out actual acts and sequence shifts from being the subject, and just everyone making opinions while people are fabricating audio and video, officers forging names, switching names, perfected, fabricating police reports, but never allowing anyone to have anything written. Lawyers in collusion with us, including the state's attorney's offices, as victims, but demonstrably victim predators until this is addressed. You know, when someone has problems where there's violence, and the police and the courts are in collusion with that, and political families, a whole bunch of people tied to a former mayor Gould, and with this same House/S, involved with the other ones that are involved with the people with the intercities connected time too, because now you have to report, you have to counter things being faked in databases and exploited on off campuses in this town and this city at the same time differently, but these people are connected. So every time we're having, they're discrediting people as liars, as people I only know as liars that had approached me. They even have these confessions online, tied to the people on off they confirmed online. As with strangers, they confessed, demonstrated, recorded, confirmed roles with investigators, and vetting identities that were simultaneously involved with evidence bracketeering and with databases involved, wire crime methods, natures of identity thefts and frauds, pretending passions and emotions, and so they pretend for personal reasons. They pretend, oh, I don't like those personnel, but they don't say it on the paper. In other words, these are people who sought me out, and that is relevant because those are the people in the background being used and confessed by the Tom Dillon, by the Kevin Dillon, Anna Dillon, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated also Anthony Minacchio. I have no problem with Anthony Minacchio, his sons. Now, they're recorded, confessed, demonstrated also involved with this Dillon family that's involved with sequence shifts. When I was in middle school, kids I didn't even have classes with, and private school kids, they made confessions to me, but I didn't know them. That's the only context I know them in. That was also part of sequence shifts and their covering of live progressions. Per their roles with this, that was intra-campuses connected. I even found out how it's next to all the schools that had roles with this. And with military, there's a scheduled family involved with a whole bunch of people involved with Ray Reynolds, with foreign and domestic medicine, medical doctors, and people associated with Central Connecticut State University. And with Jen Sosa, I don't know them. There are other police forms associated with Fox Connecticut News involved with identity thefts and frauds with them, tied to a two-route highway. And some people associated with a Victorian house on that street, and where it runs into Hangdog Lane and into the Berlin Turnpike before the heart of Hartford. Now, the people at all three locations at the end of the Berlin Turnpike are also. I never had a conversation with a Soto family in my life. There's a Fred Grisey and a whole bunch of people tied to my town's police chief's family and extended family, involved with people also on off Trinity College, involved with identity thefts and frauds that are also in the form of falsified police reports roles, and roles with the people in their sources. Now there are people with a Park Street Lena's Pizza, and there are doctors associated with that corner involved with all kinds of medical racketeering that's also legal nature. This is from a director of the FBI, people associated with forensics locations and body dumping spots. And uses of everyone defending their identities of spots and titles when everyone's just, oh, that's what I heard. It's not, oh, it's that person's fault. Well, let courts decide. That's why it's important to understand that the courts are offensively preventing us from getting legal reliefs by them switching and forging names at the branch individually and grouped distinctly and non-distinctly. So the subject is not only the actors with each branch, because they are not acting alone. And so this is Wethersfield town offices. This is also a girl, a woman. When she was a girl, I don't know her name, but it's also with how she's associated with Trinity College, with a Joshua Stryker. She also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, is involved with identity theft, forging names, switching names with the interbranch, where and how private and military are criminally involved. And people associated with Brendan Leahy, more than one person with the name Brendan Leahy. And he's got a bunch of brothers, his father, and like they have like even, I believe they have like God knows how many generations working with the triage of a Hartford hospital, and other triages involved with all kinds of sick things that are connected, and they're simultaneously connected and sustained in relationship to stuff people adapt to through campuses that are already in collusion with the problem. So the adaptations through time, more and more, they're self-valued roles, and then self-defended roles, with and as what you have to use tactically, criminally foreign influence premises treatments, and sequence treatments, and finite active and progressive treatments, and identity treatments. So, so I need to have in writing. And, if someone wants to have verbally too, because they're lying in the background about what I implied, because they also have fabricated Facebook pages and YouTube pages associated with the family members and friends, and drug cliques and sexual circles of the victim predators that prevent each age of fact cheating nature from interacting with other people normally. I mean, lying about our regular interaction, using evidences out of sequence and attaching everyone to fabricated audio and video, not even realizing the extent of it, everyone, because no one's following mandated law. So it's very simple. I need a response for the confession. There's a Mike Levine and people associated with the DeMauro family. And I never saw I saw the DeMauro family one time on the campus of Highcrest School, which is one of the schools. That is further recorded, confessed, and demonstrated also with Facebook pages, the Facebook page is interbranch. Wethersfield Police Facebook page. Newbridge Superior Court's Facebook page is involved with predicate acts. Individually and grouped predicate acts to hide that too. And that's also recorded. Then they switch. Then they put, this is not official. But they have more than one site. These are also these are also police firms that are in their personal defendant capacities, which is needed for more because we need the Attorney General now. So they can't just pretend that we're being uncooperative with the Wethersfield police. Wethersfield police are recorded in such ways, threatening that if I come in there or if anyone goes in there to make a complaint, they fabricate audio and video with each age of fact-cheating nature simultaneously. And they sequence shift. And not alone, grouped. They have various natures of courts and their family members and people tied to them growing up. This is all maintained an outcome because they have uses of it. They have uses of job sites and of unions and of identities for how they how they use confessions on off the campuses, on off the locations, including people's houses, which are crime scenes originally and still in relationship to this breaching method. Everyone was screening. So they want to pretend that police are different from regular citizens, and they need the regular citizens and the police hurting each other, because then they're defending how there was breaching against them both. In other words, by defending Nave as presented to them. Nave. Fake, positive, insidious passions and emotions dishonest and vile, speaking for justice at grammar school level. And that is missed because of how they have the self-value rolls with it, per method that uses sequence shifts and that consolidates the illusions with that off campuses. It makes self-value means to cover that up. And this is where and how we don't know each other. This is where and how the unnatural, the criminally foreign influenced, interbranch, overt criminal enterprise is private originally. When did that go away? Uses of that by worse. So that was, and its illusions were maintained, effectively needed, and kept through others with other motivations, natures, needs, interests to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, progressive lives, and styles of it. Styles of simultaneously pretending other, need to have fights with people. I have never know these people. These are people recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed. Uses of locations where people see, where people can film things. Where people in the future are going to have to say, I don't know those people. Because of how they have the investigations, investigators, and vetting identities. Vetting is also associated with, there are prosecutors and judges and attorneys and various natures of federal criminals and military families involved with a whole bunch of overt criminal enterprises, private ones. This is all confessed and recorded overtly / insidiously in the suburbs, the same way it is on TV and everything in the urban areas. And everyone's blaming other things other than themselves. Everyone's making uses of identities that simultaneously demonstrate further and further a bridge science's self-value. Pretending other simultaneously pretends not to realize the Constitution is abridged. Then they want to have, sequence true. We are prevented sequence true. While they are denying this, they are fabricating audio and video. They are and have been using the right to lie in a way that an archetypal criminal enterprise knew hundreds of nations would do that. And then they would blame, when their own have to blame, correlation could show this. This is how they keep each age of fact sheet nature, each difference from its simultaneous conjunction to awareness, how it works. See, youth is supposed to be watching the finite. There's no longer that native identity of value / value progression. So in the cartoon value nature position, value nature system, a guy being counter-extorted and counter-extorted to play a role of a Native American of the cartoon value nature system before the cartoon America. They're being forced to use the name Allah because alpha longs long, alpha high. See, semi-ancient religions are greatly about preservation of before latter semi-ancient modern religions came, semi-ancient times, people's acceptation of science because of acceptation of identity. They changed it as they were hurt, forced, tricked, and persuaded to no longer use the identity of value / value progression, not realizing, because everyone was trying to use it anyway because they understood it, how to reveal evolution's fruits and gifts, means out of nowhere. But this is a native science that works with this is a native identity of volume that everyone is. no matter who you are. It is making more and more of its identity of volume by making more and more identities of volumes in demonstration of what is of the identity slash S of invisible but still discernible. There are identities of invisible but still discernible. There are identities of opaque that are bound, all gather round. So positive and negative are not just in demonstration of identities conjunction to and as them. They are in demonstration. They are in demonstration of that one identity of volume that is making more of itself from the greater volume of itself, from the complete volume of itself, which is also discernible for how it is two more identities of sequence slash simultaneous nature, two more identities of Trinity that are distinct from the other ones. The same way the notes, not just because they're distant from each other. Note the A is more left to right. In the A is one of the notes that doesn't have that has a whole tone between it and the next note, which is B. So B and C and E and F, those are the notes. B and C are always with only a semitone between them. They come right after each other. On the piano, there's no black key between them. It goes white key to white key. At B to C and at E to F. So they are each a distinct identity of relationship to this identity of volume that has all identity of volume individually, grouped, and together manifest. Where and how 1/3/5/7. And that is with the 3 slashes, no. But those are coupled. See, everything's this is a trinity that is completed. Also, in relevance to what is the difference between temporary / lasting positive, and where temporary positive, as criminal insidiousness nature, as natures of positive are, per science. See, but we have per science people with debate science, sequence shifting, preventing quality of fact, cheap in nature, finite. So then they start, then fact, cheap in nature. See, we have types of jobs simultaneously. Where people are going to respond to this, you have to see things through other people. You have to tell on the sequence shift roles. You have to tell on the uses of the investigators in vetting identities, in collusion with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. Hundreds of nations share policing the same way. Shared, so what's that manifest as? Shared uses of tactically, criminally foreign influence premises treatments, sequence treatments, identity treatments, finite, active, progressive treatments, identity treatments where and how individual grouped and together we are a semi-nature relationship to that which is only increasing its volume. So it's positive, that's also lasting positive onto its system, and as its system, native pure, works with the ground, the evolution science. Or it is forced from here, lethal IDs. It is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by people private. For example, they have people that make theories, like the theory of relativity. And that's offensively a front. So correlation can't use what it is using, which is the identity of relativity, which is actually existent. And then they call people narcissists. And while they're doing that, these are standing natures of conversations and uses of locations, interbranch, and any business campuses and locations, people's houses, where they can just easily fabricate audio and video, and pretend they perceive things, pretend passions and emotions, pretend not to think, pretend to be evil and or insidious good, at the same time. It's not complicated, it's just extensive, but we need mandated law followed. When someone says there is a problem with the phones, and you have people making things up, we have to respond to it. See, we also have recorded the uses of the kids of the interbranch that were involved with predicate acts and databases when I was a kid, that were involved with what is actually recorded uses of investigators, investigations, and vetting identities that are in their personal capacity, that are involved now with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, in his personal defendant capacities, with the federal criminals involved with the campuses when I was a kid. Now there is a Mr. Abruzzi, who is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with central people, with investigators, police forms on and off Central Connecticut State University, involved with the juxtaposed natures of predicate acts in my street through time, because I've been asking through time for a response. When you go to their locations, they fabricate audio and video in sequences. They say things into records, pretending they're and using each other as doing that as fake evidence, and as sequence shifts, illusions, roles, and as predicate acts roles. Our locations, areas, states, sciences, campuses, are used remotely since before we were born. So it is relevant, as clear as day, recorded. It's also tied all along that street that goes from the corners on Church Street, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with the house in the corner of a whole bunch of people tied to the house in the corner of Church Street and Main Street. It was involved with medical racketeering. Doctors and their family members and people tied to them and their neighbors, and WFSB, Fox WTNH, and Fox Connecticut News recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with old Wethersfield there. Right, skip down the street on Main Street. This is the corner of Main Street and Church Street in Old Wethersfield. Right there where George Washington had to come to meet with the French general to secure means to win the last battle of the physical Revolutionary War. Leaving out the War of 1812. Leaving out the Civil War, because they're not leaving